taxes raised for everyone to support this. There's going to have to be road improvements because there are miles and miles and miles of single lane road out there. You're going to have to see utilities go out there. You're going to have to see internet go out there. You're going to have to build, like I said, you're going to have to build more schools. I mean, that money's not just going to fall out of the sky. I talked to the people that want to do this. They're wonderful people. They really are. But within 5 minutes of being inside the house, I heard growth plan 8 times. That's a problem. We are taking something that we as a body pushed through when it was in desperate need of amending and could have waited, and now we are living as if that is gospel and we have to go by it. When you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you
Mr. Holloman? All right, thank you, Mr. Holloman.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else present to speak on behalf of CZ11 2020?
Yes, my name is Tom Oliver. I own this property. I'm at 300 Hampton Station Road. I own this property with my wife and my Aunt Charlotte Marshall. I'm going to be very brief. I do appreciate your consideration on this property. My family, like I'm sure a lot of the people that are against, have been around this place for well over 100 years. And we would just thank you for your consideration, and anything that we can do to answer questions, I will do so.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Any questions of Mr. Oliver? Commissioner Knight?
I just have a general statement. So everybody's worried about the school system and whether or not we're going to have an issue with capacity. However, I know for a fact that the school system is doing a count as far as how many students are going to be participating in in-house school versus virtual school. So based off of that fact, I think at the next meeting, it would be ideal to have a representative from the school system to give us a count. So then we can have a definitive number of the capacity issue so that we're tracking that rather than going off of speculation. So thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Oliver? Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ11 2020?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ11 2020?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Belvin, 3313 Kirkwood Road, obviously here in Clarksville. I want to thank Mayor Jordan, the commissioners, and other elected constitutional officers that are here this evening. As I mentioned, my name is Bob Belvin, and I'm speaking in opposition, and in clear opposition among hundreds of people, in opposition to KCZ-11-2020, especially those folks in the Kirkwood, Webb, and Buck Road areas, which will be dramatically affected by this. A little chronology is important here in providing context. In the late June meeting, the Regional Planning Commission, agents for this site asked for a 30-day deferral of the case. Once the developer and the seller realized a strong opposition to this rezoning, they needed time to contact the members of the commission and work those channels. We'll flash forward to next Wednesday, the last Wednesday, and you just saw the presentation by Mr. Tyndall that he also made to the Greater Planning Commission as a whole. If you don't care to read the details, that's perfectly fine with me, but let me reiterate that this property is outside the city-county's 20-year plan. Let me reiterate that again. This is outside the city and county's 20-year plan. Essential services just cannot be supported, and I've seen some discussion back and forth with these folks about that just a moment. And herein lies a huge problem for our county. We fail to listen to the experts, to the professionals. Instead, we run amok of a 20-year plan. We stretch out infrastructure to ridiculous limits, all at the gain of special interest. In remarks to the RFP last Wednesday, the developer owner pleaded for approval, given they did not have enough inventory. That plea was just made here moments ago, noting in a general market there would be roughly 1,200 homes, and presently, as Mr. Holloman just mentioned, there's 420. The commission itself is made up largely of affiliates in the real estate industry, the developers, builders, agents, commercial real estate agents, etc. The vote 8-0 for approval is kind of, with one abstention, I might add, is kind of striking in a complete and unanimous reversal of the recommendation of the pros, the experts who are partially funded, as you all know, by your body. The fact that there is not a single vote siding with the staff is not hard to understand. Special interests are at play here and along the lines of the real estate industry, and they face a total infrastructure chaos if this is allowed to continue, as evidenced by these photos I want to present. The first of which is within a mile, and I'll have to submit these to Ms. Newell. Within a mile of this site is a three-way stop with a railroad arm that does not have a signal on it. And this will be one of the arteries that the developers and the sellers mentioned would feed into this proposed rezoning area. And the second one is probably one you're real familiar with. It's Kirkwood Place in Fieldstone, which has over 1,000 or 2,000 rather residents that are expected to occupy this area on this very difficult hill at Dunlop Lane, which is one of those arteries they mentioned. I ask for your total disapproval of CZ 11-2020, and I'll be open for any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Belvin? Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience to speak in opposition to CZ 11-2020?
Yes, sir. We have two more speakers.
I'm David Buck. I live at 3245 Buck Road. I've been on the same family farm for 61 years. I own 17.3 acres right there at my house and 109 and 106 acres adjoining on Buck Road. There's a subdivision behind us that butts right up against Phillips Estates on Webb Road. That road is very narrow. And it goes around there and goes through the 5-way stop sign that he was talking about a while ago. There's Hickory Wild, and I do not know how many houses out through there, but it occupies 2 roads, Dunlop and Kirkwood, and it goes all the way through. It's probably a couple thousand houses out there. They're building some kind of complex out there off of Dunlop right now. Looks like it's going to be probably 200 or 300 apartments, and they're talking about building. I don't know how many houses in front of me there on this office property. I don't know how many it's going to be. Probably a couple hundred. Probably a couple hundred houses there. And I don't think we just need that many more houses there right now, right in the center of all this. That'd be right in the center. It would just, the noise level now is tremendous, and the traffic. And we have any given weekend in the summertime, 600 to 1,000 bicyclers out there. They come from Nashville and everywhere. That, if you don't know what that's called, it's called the Mega out there in Kirkwood area, and they ride that every weekend just about. We have runs out there anywhere for a couple thousand people who run out there in that property around all that area. They have a couple runs a year. One's in November every year. I don't know why November, I don't know. But I would like to see that this be opposed. Like I said, I've been there a long time, and it's my home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Buck. Any questions of Mr. Buck? Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in opposition to CZ 11-2020?
Yes, sir. We have one more.
Good evening, everyone. Doug Jones, live at 3400 Buck Road. My biggest concern is I've been a volunteer fireman with St. Bethlehem, which covers the district that I live in, since 1999. At this time, we barely have enough people to cover what we have. How can we provide these services when we don't have the people? That's about all I can say on that. And now I'm going to get into some personal stuff. You know, I have a school-age child. The first 2 months of the school year last year, my family had to rearrange their life to take my son to school because there were no school bus drivers to service our area, let alone that he goes to a Rossview school, and then, you know, overcrowded, may or may not be unaffordable. And, you know, we just don't need more children out there at the moment. And the last thing that I have for you guys is the roads. The road system is horrible. There's no shoulders. There's no nothing. There's numerous wrecks out there. You can feel free to look at the E911 logs for the area. Something needs to be expanded. The roads need to be expanded or anything to mitigate some of this traffic issues. And that's all I have. You guys have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Any questions of Mr. Jones? Thank you, sir. All right, we'll now close the public hearing on CZ 11, 2020, CZ 12, 2020. This was deferred at the Planning Commission. So we'll go to CZ 13, 2020, application of Tommy Head from AG to E1. Mr. Tyndall.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's get up to my page here. This is the application of Tommy Head. The agent is David Hayes. 52.8 acres of ag, requesting to go to E1. It is not an extension of the zoning classification. As a refresher, E1 allows properties in the rural area down to 1 acre, whereas the ag zoning requires 1.5 acres per lot. The property fronts the west frontage of Old Oak Plains Road, approximately 600 feet from Oak Plains Road, Old Oak Plains Road intersection. This is in County Commission District 3. The entire property is an existing farm with multiple buildings. The land has rolling hills, ponds, and a tree line. The tract has a blue line stream running east to west along the rear of the property. The applicant's statement is to allow for the development of 37 single-family homes. It is in the rural area. Next slide. You're kind of on the edge of the county out there. You see Cheatham County just to the south, just east of Ashland City Road, Old Oak Plains and Old Plains Road intersection, located there. About a year ago, CZ 12, 2019 was before you for Ag to M2, and that was disapproved. It was a different piece of the property, but it was still part of the same parent tract. So they waited the year to come back for this. In the meantime, the Planning Commission did receive a preliminary plat about 6 months ago for 30 agricultural lots on a loop road in the subdivision on septic. Now they're requesting to come back for 37 homes with this rezoning per their statement. We did not receive any comments except the Highway Street Department. This goes back to their subdivision request. A portion of Old Oak Plains Road will need to be widened at the applicant's expense, and they're aware of that. There's only about 16, 17 feet of pavement out there now. They would have to widen it up to 20 feet, I believe, for the County Highway Department. Next slide. And here's the zoning out there. You can see to the north, I believe that's Welsh Tree, that larger E1 subdivision. And again, this is at the same scale that you just had the last case at. These are large properties down here in this area. Next slide. Here it is. This is right at the bend of Old Oak Plains Road, if you've been down there. Next slide. Pretty much looking at from here to the left would be the subdivision in question. There's the corner of the property. That's looking back down Old Oak Plains Road toward Oak Plains Road. And this is one of the neighboring properties to the left. Planning staff recommends disapproval. The proposed zoning request is inconsistent with the overall goals of the adopted land use plan. This tract lies within the rural area of the land use plan. The rural area lies outside the 20-year growth projection of the urban growth boundaries. Properties within the rural area have been identified as areas for the preservation of agricultural, forest, recreation, and wildlife management areas. Preservation of large tracts of agricultural land within the rural area should be prioritized. Moderate to large-scale residential development in the rural area is detrimental to the long-term planning goals and contributes to sprawl. The frontage of this property is through Old Oak Plains Road, and currently is substandard. Improvements will be made if there's an increase in intensity of the use. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall? All right. Is there anyone in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 13, 2020?
Yes, sir, we have 3 speakers.
Yes, sir. Thank you all very much. I'm David Hayes. I'm the developer of this property, Tommy Head property on Old Oaks Plain Pike. And we originally thought when we started working on this that between us and Mr. Head, we thought we were dealing with a 60-acre tract. And our plans were to develop 37 residential lots. And anyway, ended up, when we got it surveyed, we ended up with 52 acres. Well, 52 acres in the A1 zone, we couldn't do our 37, get our 37 lots. So what we were hoping to do was to get to the E1 zone, and E1 would, we can very easily get 37 lots in the E1 zoning. And it doesn't change the amount of road or the amount of utilities that we have. We're going with 30 lots, which we could get 30 lots on it in its current zoning, but hopefully we could get to the 37. My understanding, there's a number of other areas in that neighborhood that are zoned E1, and we feel like the difference between an acre plus lot and an acre and a half, you'd have trouble recognizing it, if you really didn't know. So we're hopefully asking that you seriously consider rezoning to the E1.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the audience to speak on behalf of CZ 13, 2020?
Hello, Commissioners. Cal McKay Merchant Company Engineering. We've been helping Mr. Hayes with this project for quite some time. I'm not sure he mentioned that this past February we had a preliminary plat approved for 30 lots with the current ag zoning, acre and a half above. The E1 zoning will yield 7 additional lots, and really the ag zoning and the E1 zoning have the same frontage requirement. It's just going to be, the lots aren't going to be as deep. And he mentioned, with the 30 lots, we're looking at 3,800 foot of county maintained road, 3,800 feet of county maintained road, and this zone change will allow the 7 additional lots with the same length of county maintained road. If these 7 lots were picked up somewhere else, you're looking at it having to build an additional 1,000 feet of road. If I have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak on behalf of CZ 13, 2020?
Yes, sir, just a moment.
On behalf?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioners, good evening. My name is Phil Daggett. I'm a resident of the district, only about 4 miles, a little bit less from the project. But I've taken a look at the plans. I'm familiar with the need for this type of housing, particularly single-family residences that are affordable. And I certainly support it and see no reason why it wouldn't be a very positive addition to our community and to Montgomery County as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Baggett. Any questions? Anyone to speak in opposition to CZ 13, 2020?
There is no one to speak in opposition here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Someone who is speaking for would like to say one more thing. Is that okay?
No, ma'am. Sorry.
No, okay. Thank you.
All right, we will now close the public hearing on CZ 13, 2020. We'll go to CZ 14, 2020, application to Holly Point LC, CBH Properties from AGR1 to R1A. Mr. Tyndall.
All right, we'll get the next slide up here. And okay. Thanks, Skip. I know he's juggling like 5 different things over here. This application by Holly Point LLC and CBP Properties, the agent is Christian Black. 0.84 acres here, currently zoned ag, wishing to go, ag and R1, wishing to go to R1A. The only real difference between R1 and R1A is a 2,000, 3,000 feet less in lot size and 10 less feet in lot width. Next slide. This is just south of Sango Road on Durham Road out there in the East Montgomery utility area. It's just south of Sango Commons, which received its second half. So you'll see that subdivision just north of it. The rest of it's being developed as we speak. It has one of those preliminary lots becoming a final lot right now. Next slide. So I will say at first, staff was a little confused by this request. we're like R1A, there's no R1A in the area, it's only 0.8 acres. You know, we were probably leaning towards disapproval. And then we got to talk to the applicant. There's something in both the county and the city regulations in the urban growth boundary and the planned growth area allows you what's called a cluster subdivision. The idea behind a cluster subdivision is because we have sinkholes, wetlands, and other property, an applicant can save 15% or more of that property and allow the lots inside the subdivision to be smaller, as long as they have a buffer around them. By smaller, I mean if you're R1, your internal lots to get to be R1A. If you're zoned R1A, they can be R2, R2, R2A. You get to step down to inside the subdivision. And hence, that's the request here by the applicant, is that the neighboring lots, though zoned R1, are technically the same size as R1A, so this would fit the character of the subdivision that's adjacent to it. And when we talked to them and figured that out, that was amenable. This is in the urban growth boundary. It is in County District number 3. Clarksville Gas and Water's comment, East Montgomery Utility District, and then it's within the approved sewer plan. I believe they can get sewer through the subdivision out to these properties. Historical estimates, staff thinks 2, maybe 3 lots out of this, 1.8 acres. It's a good question for the applicant. We usually don't get such a small piece of land for R1A. Step through some real quick. I think I have 3 pictures. Here it is right here, Durham Road, typical county road. Property's on the right here. There it is, right there. Next slide. And then looking back, there's the sign right there. Looking back up the property towards Sango Road. Next. And then this is across the street, open farmland. Staff recommends approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the land use plan. The adjoining property to the north is developed as an R1 single-family cluster subdivision. That option with the base zoning of R1 permits R1A lot sizes, and this R1A lot size request will permit compatible lot sizes with the development to the north. The proposed R1A is not out of character with the development in the area, and adequate infrastructure can serve the site. No adverse environmental issues are identified. Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Any questions of Mr. Tyndall? I have a question. How did the ownership get the little sliver of R1?
I don't have that answer. I'm not
Okay,
sure.
I was just curious. All right, is there anyone present that would like to speak on behalf of CZ 14, 2020? We're going into public hearing. Anyone present to speak on behalf of CZ 14, 2020? Anyone present to speak in opposition to CZ 14, 2020? Anyone to speak in opposition? We'll now close the public hearing. Mr. Tyndall, thank you. Commissioners, we'll jump right to our resolutions. Resolution 28-1 is a resolution to establish Juneteenth as a legal paid holiday for Montgomery County government and employees beginning on June 19th, 2021. Commissioner Pritchard, do you have a question?
I did have a question and a statement. I hope that everybody's read both the original amendment and then the additional proposal in red. And I'm going to suggest that we make a motion that we look at the original amendment that Commissioner Leverett has written and separate the original amendment from the additional. We do, in my opinion, recognize Wilma Rudolph on a very daily basis all over the entire city. And so my suggestion is that I will recommend that we'll make a separate amendment for Commissioner Leverett's proposal only.
What will be presented will be 28-1. I think there was a proposed amendment that was handed out tonight that may be brought forward when we vote on it. But what will be going forth is just establish the Juneteenth as a legal paid holiday. Someone can amend that if they choose to do that. Commissioner Leverett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to answer any questions that any of the commissioners had and give some context, once again, to this resolution, excuse me, is that we have 47 states that currently acknowledge Juneteenth as a holiday. However, Tennessee is not one of them. There has been some legislation and attempts to try to make Juneteenth a holiday, and that failed. But our governor did give a proclamation acknowledging June 19th, as it stands. What I was proposing is that we make this a holiday in Montgomery County to celebrate the fact that we are a diverse community, and as an opportunity for our possible state, maybe one day, to see the momentum of this and carry it as a state holiday. It was not approved also in Congress as a federal holiday because there was not the momentum. And so this is just an opportunity for us here in the county to celebrate our collective liberation. As it stands right now, only one county in Tennessee has Juneteenth as a county holiday, and that is Shelby County. And if this is approved, we will be the second county in the state of Tennessee to acknowledge Juneteenth as a paid holiday for our well-deserved employees of Montgomery County. So with that said, I'll answer any questions any commissioners have.
Any questions of Ms. Leverett? Commissioner Harper?
Thank you, Mayor. Since there is possibly an amendment on this, I'd like to ask that we remove this from the consent agenda, please.
We will do that. We'll do it tonight, but we figured we'd do it Monday night for sure. Next Monday night. Commissioner Knight?
I have a question, but I just like to make a statement just for context. So Juneteenth, for those of you that don't know, it's a commemoration or Jubilee Day for June 19th, 1865, which was the proclamation of freedom from slavery. It's a big part of African-American culture, and for obvious reasons, I support the spirit of this initiative. And the only question I really had, which was previously answered, is are we pushing this up to the state legislative liaison committee to get pushed as a state legislative item? That's all.
I'm not aware that it's been submitted to the legislative liaison committee. I would say that if it passes here at this body, I would see no need for it to go forward unless you were asking for it to be a statewide holiday.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tangi Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so all the commissioners had the proposed amendment, and we just wanted to give it to you to look at it. We were gonna make it one resolution, but we thought that we wanted at least one of them to get an opportunity or get a chance to be approved. So I was gonna amend it on the floor next week. But I wanted y'all to get familiar with it and look at it. And I'm actually also thinking about making it its own separate resolution, and I'll get with Mr. Harvey about that tomorrow. But I did want y'all to look at the proposed resolution so you'll know what it'll be.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Bryant?
I'd just like to say that I am not in opposition of Commissioner Leverett's proposed resolution. However, I am of the opinion that this body is not one that should vote on it. It should go to the state and become a state holiday. If we choose as commissioners to vote this holiday in, we have 1,076 county employees, and that would cost the taxpayers dollars of $226,500 for that one day. It will have much more meaning and much more understanding and appreciation if it becomes a state holiday versus us setting an agenda for this to follow through at the next level that someone feels the need to make a holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Beal?
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bryan actually just answered my question. I was going to ask how much would this cost the taxpayers? But I do have another question. Will this be offered to every single county employee? Every single one?
All full-time employees.
All of them? Okay. Are we sure about that? Because I've been told otherwise.
Well, I don't know who told you.
Our HR director did. So
Who would it not be offered to, Tim?
I'm not trying to put him on the spot, but I just want to know for sure.
Yeah, all full-time employees.
So all full-time?
All full-time
Okay,
employees.
all right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Commissioner Gannon?
Sir, thank you, Mayor. I just have two questions, basically. How many holidays do we currently have? 12. So, and this one would not be replacing one, this would be in addition to.
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Okay. And I suppose you've done the math, we've talked earlier. How much does it cost with benefits and salary?
That cost is between 226 and 227,000. And to clarify that, what Commissioner Beal was referring to, all employees would be off that day, but the only ones that are paid for that holiday are the full-time employees.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Tangi Smith?
Okay, sorry about that, y'all. One last thing I wanted to say. The resolution, because Juneteenth is obviously June the 19th, and Wilma Rudolph's birthday is June the 23rd. So that is why we asked for Wilma Rudolph's birthday to be a floating holiday, to be used anytime between July and July. Anytime between the fiscal year, they could use it at any time, because I understand that having 2 days off in the same week. I also, and I'll give it to everyone before we come back. I had the HR director to do the math, because this year they didn't get a COLA. They didn't get the raise for the COLA. So I did the math on how much that would have been if they would have gotten the COLA, how much they would have made versus the holiday. So, because I took that into consideration as well. So I wanted, you'll know the difference by next week.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Joe Smith?
I want to touch back on that being offered to every full-time employee. How will that affect the first responders, medical service providers, and law enforcement providers who are the exception in this resolution?
Just like all of our other paid holidays, they bank it, book it, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so it'll just roll over in there?
Yeah, they get that time off. They just have to take it at a different time. But basically, this would close county offices with the exception of first responders, essential, really first responders, sheriffs, EMS, those type folks.
And do we observe any other holidays as Montgomery County that are not federally recognized, or?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Is federal government 2 days for Thanksgiving? So technically yes, but technically no. I guess you could say that. So yes, Good Friday.
Okay.
Commissioner Leverett?
I was just going to make that point that we do observe Good Friday and Columbus Day as a floating holiday. Also, I just want to remind the commissioners, before this resolution made it to the floor, it was approved with the Personnel Advisory Committee. That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else on 28-1? 28-2, resolution to appropriate funds from the Sheriff's Office Defense Reutilization and Marketing Office Reserve Fund fiscal year 2021. Any questions? Commissioners, that item is set for the consent agenda. 28-3, resolution adopting the Montgomery County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Any questions? That item is also set for the consent agenda. Resolution 28-4, resolution to amend the budgets of various funds for fiscal year 2021 in certain areas of revenue and expenditures. Any questions on 28-4? That also is set for the consent agenda. 28-5 is Resolution of Montgomery County Board of Commissioners approving amendments to the 2021 CMCSS school budget. Any questions? That item is also set for the consent agenda. Resolution of Montgomery County Board of Commissioners approving amendments to the 2021 CMCSS school budget. Those are two separate amendments. Any questions on that item? It is also set for the consent agenda. And then Resolution 28-7, resolution approving the formation of a Land Regulation Advisory Committee for the City of Clarksville and Montgomery County, Tennessee. Commissioner Beal?
Thank you, sir. This is going to be for the two county commissioners that are appointed to this. That's going to be a mayor appointment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Will that be subject to commission approval?
I don't think the way it's written that it is. Yeah, I yield to Jeff. I didn't write it, he wrote it. But I don't think it is. And I could probably find it in here real quick and let you know, but.
It's just a two-page resolution in your packet there. Committee composition, let's see. 7 total members, 2 of the city council, 2 Montgomery County. The city council and county commissioner representatives shall be selected to 2-year terms without succession, appointed by their respective mayors.
So it would just be a mayor's appointment and that's it?
Right.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
If it's silent about commission approval, then yes, it would just be the county mayor. And it is silent, that's not in there.
Is there anything stopping us from amending this to require commission approval?
I don't know the origin of this either. There's nothing that will stop you from amending a typical resolution. If he were to tell me there's some statutory requirement or there's an interlocal agreement that says it has to match the city, we would have to discuss that component.
The original resolution doesn't match the cities. The intents were the same, but the mechanisms were a little different. That's why this is being brought back up, even though it's nearly 20 years later, 30 years later, to clean this up so that they do match up. I will say, Commissioner Beal, these are non-consecutive or without secession. So 2-year term and you're out, 2-year term that allows 4 commissioners over the period of your term to sit on this advisory council. And that was at the request of Mayor Dury. He wanted to see as many commissioners get exposed to the planning commission over that time frame.
Okay, but there is nothing stopping us from requiring commission approval though?
No, you can amend it.
Okay.
City council's taking this up this Thursday.
Okay,
They can always re-amend theirs if they wanted to.
gotcha. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions about 28-7? That's set for the consent agenda. You can certainly pull it next Monday night if you'd like to. Yeah. Or we'll just pull it. We'll just pull it. Shelley, if you'd make that note, please, ma'am. You see your reports, commissioners, your commission minutes, county clerk's report and notary list, and the county mayor nominations and appointments. Excuse me, I didn't have that sheet out, but they are Building and Codes Committee, Commissioner Ricky Ray's been filling the unexpired term of Ron Sokol's nominated to serve his first full 3-year term expiring August 2023. Loretta Bryant's been filling the unexpired term of John Genus and is nominated to serve her first full 3-year term expiring August 2023. And Commissioner David Harper is nominated to replace Commissioner Jerry Albert for a 3-year term to expire August 2023. And on county mayor appointments, on the Loss Control Committee, if you recall, the Rules Committee, and we voted on this, added another commissioner. Commissioner Carmel Chandler is appointed to fill the unexpired term of Jennifer Hood, Risk Management Director, with a term to expire August 2021. That will require approval, that in the Building and Codes. And then the Montgomery County Fair Committee is reappointed. They have not met in about 27 years. Is that? Oh, since 2017. But that's Condra Smalley, Jerry Albert, Charlie Keene, Steve Gursky, and John Cannon to serve 2-year terms to expire August of 2020. Any questions about those? Those will be on the consent agenda unless we have an objection. You'll see your appointments, the reports that have been filed. Announcements, next Monday night, the election process will take place at the formal commission meeting to elect an interim replacement for the circuit court clerk due to Cheryl Castle's retirement. We will go through the rules on how that will proceed next Monday night. And then a reminder, the unveiling of the women's suffrage statue on Saturday, August 15th. A walking parade will begin at 5 p.m. from the historic courthouse to Public Square for the ceremony. The county purchased a brick paver for all of our current and prior women county commissioners and county mayor, and they will all be placed around the statue. And then not listed on your announcements, it's brought to my attention tonight, former city council lady Barbara Johnson passed away. I think she passed away, Commissioner Woodruff, Sunday. So we certainly want to lift Council Lady Johnson's family up in our prayers. And also former County Commissioner Monroe Gildersleeve's son passed away just recently. So I want to lift up the Gildersleeve family as well. Commissioners, we have no further business. Skip, you and Patrick, Michael, thank y'all for all your hard work on this. What y'all do every day that we get the ability to use, the Spark board, all this remote stuff. Just thank y'all for the job y'all do. We're adjourned.